Welcome back, folks, to the Delt Day of Giving 2023, Forging the Future. I'm Vince Russo here once again with you now in our 5 o'clock hour here in Eastern Standard Time. Folks wrapping up the workday and hopefully settling in for an enjoyable evening. Lots of content still to come as we trek forward here on the Delt Day of Giving. Narrowing in on $150,000 raised, just a little short of that here. So continue to support. We're so grateful for everyone who's done so already and hope that folks continue to do so as we trek forward into the evening. As promised, my guest now is Drew Storen. Drew, very excited to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. A little bit about Drew. Drew Storen is an American former professional baseball relief pitcher. He played in Major League Baseball for the Washington Nationals, Toronto Blue Jays, Seattle Mariners, and Cincinnati Reds. Storen finished his 8-year career with 99 saves, including 43 in 2011, which helped him rank 4th overall in Major League Baseball. He faced 1,844 total batters over 470 total appearances in the big leagues, finishing with a 29-18 record and a 3.45 earned run average. Storen is now a part owner of Field of Dreams Whiskey Company, which currently sells Triple Play, a canned cocktail that is corn whiskey with an Arnold Palmer with a touch of ginger, and is planning to release its first bourbon later this year using corn from the original Field of Dreams in Dyersville, Iowa. So keeping busy, I see.
Yeah, there's no such thing as retirement, apparently.
That's right. That's right. Well, we certainly appreciate you being here. I'm sure everyone at home, first and foremost, would love to hear if you have any memories as a Beta Rho chapter Delt at Stanford.
Yeah, it was really fun. I was only at Stanford for 2 years, but that last year is when we had a good group of guys. It was a bunch of kind of the leftover baseball guys with a lot of football guys. So it was a really good experience to just meet different people, because football guys are so busy all the time. We're on all different schedules, and some of those guys are still my friends, and it was nice because it was pretty laid back and casual. But moving forward, and even with what I'm doing now, some of those connections pay off, and just to stay in touch with those guys, be around like-minded people, it was a really special experience.
That's awesome. Now, was it affiliations with the baseball team that sort of motivated you to join the chapter? What sort of encouraged you to join a fraternity and to join Delta Tau Delta?
Yeah, DTD was so big at Stanford, and then for a couple of years it kind of slowed down a little bit. So we wanted to be a part of kind of bringing it back. And you hear all the stories about the alum, and that's what it's all about. And just trying to make sure that history is retold and it sticks around, because that's what it's all about, right? Those are the stories that stick with you, and that you can always have that connection with somebody, and hopefully kind of create those bonds moving forward.
I'm glad to hear that you took away some things from that experience. Any development of any specific skills from your fraternity experience you feel you've been able to apply to your various careers since?
Yeah, I think the big thing in meeting anybody out at Stanford in general, but on a smaller basis, with DTD, was just learning people's backgrounds and why, because everybody is good at something and spectacular at something, and learning why. And that's always been my thing, is trying to take pages from other people's playbook and go, okay, they're really good at that. I'm just going to kind of do what they did there, and just kind of learning why people are wired a certain way, and just learning from their backgrounds. Because growing up in Indiana obviously is a little different than growing up in California or a foreign country. So
sure.
That for me, that was a big thing, and really paid off moving forward, playing on different teams where guys are from all over the world. I think for me, that was probably one of the bigger things.
That's awesome. And now, going off of that, the fraternity has really embraced that this experience is entrepreneurial, that it teaches men to sort of explore their own personal skill sets, their toolkit when it comes to cultivating themselves. And certainly you have ventured into an entrepreneurial venture yourself, and I'm anxious to hear what are some of those skills that you just talked about that you've leveraged in getting the Field of Dreams Whiskey Company up off the ground.
Yeah, like I said, I think the big thing is just knowing what tools you have in your belt, and knowing where to find the better ones elsewhere. I think for me, just looking at it from an engineer and design approach, I've always, I like space. Who doesn't like rockets? I have a buddy that works for SpaceX, and they hire the right guys to build a rocket. I don't think Elon did it himself, right? So that's right. For me, like going, okay, and he takes different ideas, and that's what a lot of these guys, one of the guys, when I was living in DC, there was an app I used that I'm pretty sure he started. So I reached right out to him, and I was like, hey, I'm having an issue with this. Can you help me out? And he was like, yeah, of course. This is my thing. And that's the cool thing, where leaning on that kind of play has helped me, lean on advisors because I didn't know anything about the business. I knew how to collect it. I didn't know, I certainly knew how to drink it, but I didn't know how to produce it. And I didn't want to go in and think because I was really good at baseball, I was going to be good at everything else. And I think that's one of those things that you learn. I learned at Stanford because hey, nobody really cared that you're on baseball because this kid set up a Netflix server in our dorm, right? That's way cooler, I think. But that's the beauty of it where I go, okay, I can utilize that guy's strength to help me in another way. And, again, just having that common bond to go, okay, let's work together to make something cool.
That's incredibly cool. Absolutely. And so talking a little bit about some of your community involvement, certainly fraternity encourages community involvement across the country. And you've spent time as a local pitching coach here in the Indiana area. Delta Tau Delta at its core has always been about mentorship and relationships and leaning on folks to help build that toolkit, as we've talked about. Certainly you've talked a little bit about that with your entrepreneurial ventures, but what encouraged you to give back to your community in that way?
Yeah, I just know that it wasn't all me that got me to the big leagues. From day one, I had a great dad that, he pushed me in the right direction, led me to the best coaches. And then, moving forward, every step, I always had that person that went the extra mile or gave me that one little tip that I go, okay, that helped change it. And even when I got to the big leagues, I was the youngest guy on the roster, right? And a little maverickish, because I was kind of feeling myself a bit, but I made sure and watched and listened to the veteran guys. And they taught me, I asked all the right questions and they taught me everything to help get me up to speed. So then I, that learning curve kind of quickened out for me. So that was something I always appreciated. And I always wanted to be the person, whether I was going to be the veteran in the big leagues doing that to a rookie or even when I was done, because I think, I hate hearing the stories about one bad coach ruining it for a kid. And obviously I enjoy being around baseball, but to see the moment it clicks with a kid and to just make that one, make him like it that much more. It's fun for me and it's cool because I get to bring my boys around it too.
Yeah, I saw that, certainly I'm sure that was a rewarding and fulfilling experience, but maybe not as rewarding and fulfilling as being a T-ball coach for your son.
That's right. I joke that it's the worst episode of Undercover Boss you've ever seen, but I certainly know how to find a barrel, so that helps. And it's kind of the opposite of what I used to do. I'm trying to make all the contacts. So I joke that I have perfect innings when I get every kid to put the ball in play. So I love it, and there's no better job than Coach Daddy. So the smile puts on his face, and I'm kind of hooked. I don't know if I'm ever going to stop coaching him. So
that's fantastic. Anything else you'd like to share about fraternity experience, current business ventures, or even just anecdotally something that folks might not know about life in the big leagues?
There's a lot there. I think just like I said earlier, the principles of the camaraderie, I think regardless, it doesn't matter if it's baseball. Obviously it's magnified in baseball and sports. But it plays anywhere, right? Anytime, for me, they say don't really start businesses with your friends. So I'm doing this with other bullpen guys. Because if you can sit in a cage with guys for 162 games, you hear everything about them. You know how they operate. How they operate under stress. And so those are guys that are like, okay, I can work with them. But that camaraderie starts when, again, understanding their backgrounds, and that starts in college. And for me, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Take me out of Indiana, put me in a completely foreign space with people. It was a perfect opportunity because everybody was coming from everywhere. So everybody was kind of starting fresh, and didn't have lined up clicks already. And it was great to just kind of soak in the different experiences from other people and kind of help make me a better person, hopefully.
Fantastic. Well, Drew, I really appreciate you joining us here on the Delt Day of Giving this year. Certainly am excited to hear how things progress with the venture and with the Field of Dreams Whiskey Company as your bourbon comes out this fall. And we will turn it back over to our regularly scheduled programming. We'll be back at 6:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. to highlight some of our alumni chapters who will tune in from across the country for their Day of Giving celebrations. We're just short of $150,000 here on the Delt Day of Giving. Help us get over that hump and continue to raise money for the Forging the Future campaign and all the important funds that are underneath it and within it. For Drew Storen, I'm Vince Russo. We'll be back in just a little bit here on the Delt Day of Giving 2023.